Now, I hope this forum will provide a platform in helping us shape our role and responsibilities so that we can ensure that our health, livelihood, and environment are protected. I appreciate your support in making this forum a success, and we look forward to your fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
As Mr. Mohideen has already alluded to, one of the reasons why we wanted to hold this forum was really to relook at what Malaysia's options are, and what our current energy mix is, and really whether nuclear is a safe option for the future. I think in recent years we've really seen a healthy increase in the public's interest on energy issues, and while some of this of course is driven by the issue of higher prices, prospect of higher prices, higher tariffs, there's also rising environmental awareness on climate change and the need to relook at our energy mix to ensure that it's more sustainable and less emissions intensive. At the same time, we've also seen adverse environmental, human health and social impacts from mega power projects, with local communities actually bearing the brunt of these impacts. We've also seen some initiative from the government responding with new policies on how to tackle some of these challenges, and we'll hear more throughout today from speakers from the Energy Commission and the Ministry of Energy, Green Technology and Water. Of course, as mentioned already, one of the policy decisions that seems to have been taken already is that of the option of nuclear power for Malaysia. And of course, there are serious concerns about this, and amplified more so by the disaster that occurred in Fukushima earlier this year. So many Malaysians are now asking, does Malaysia really need nuclear power? So that's one of the reasons why we convened this forum. I'm just going to take you through what we're going to try and cover for the next 2 days, just to orientate us. Of course, one of the reasons why we wanted to hold this was to raise public awareness on the increasingly critical issue of energy security and the need for energy conservation. We will focus largely in this forum on energy generation for electricity. While we won't look at energy from the transportation sector, let's bear in mind that it's also an equally important issue to address, and perhaps Gurmit might also touch on that a little bit in this presentation. One thing we wanted to do was to also highlight the environmental and social impacts of existing and planned power plants and communities' struggles against these projects. Some are well known, like the Hafdzuan Dam and the Eastern Sabah coal-fired power plant and the Tanjung Bin plant in Johor. Sabah Alam Malaysia has worked with some of these communities, and we wanted to really highlight how communities have come together there to resist such projects because of the adverse environmental and health impacts. We're very honored to have colleagues from Japan here at our forum. They will share their experiences with us, which I'm sure will be very powerful testimonies, especially about the Fukushima disaster, what the implications have been, the sufferings that have happened there. Let's listen with humility and empathy. They will also talk about the response from the Japanese government and the public following the disaster. We will hear also from colleagues from South Korea. We're very happy that you're here to be able to be with us. Both Korea and Japan, of course, have gone quite large on nuclear power, and we want to listen to learn from their experiences, to see what it's like actually living with nuclear power plants in their communities, so that we can take these lessons and really think, is this what we want from Malaysia? We'll also talk a little bit about the impact of uranium mining, little-known effects of uranium mining. We'll hear about that from our colleague from Australia, and we'll also take a critical look at nuclear lobby, what's driving it, why has there been a recent increase in push for nuclear power plants, not just in Malaysia, but globally as well. So at the end of the day, we hope we've brought together a wide range of stakeholders. We want to provide a platform for discussion and to really critically rethink and relook at Malaysia's energy policies, to rethink the need for Malaysia to adopt nuclear power and to help us make the right decisions for our future and our future generations. So I think we look forward to a very exciting program for the next 2 days. I hope you will also be able to join us tomorrow, and let's try and, as Mr. Mohideen says, perhaps, in a way we are talking to people who already have an idea of where they stand on this issue, but let's try and come together and try to chart a way forward and to think critically about what the future for Malaysia should be in terms of our energy generation. Thank you very much.
We'll have a discussion question. So, please speak to that requirement from the organizers. This session is an important session. It's going to look at where is Malaysia going in terms of energy policy. We all know that energy is essential to human civilization, and particularly the industrial civilization has been based on cheap energy from petroleum and coal, which are depleting. Prices are shooting up, and will be even shooting up higher, and may be completely depleted in the future. And nations have gone to war in order to control the sources of this energy. And therefore it's a very important subject, and we have three well-informed and knowledgeable people on this panel to discuss a number of issues. Hilary Chiew will be discussing about energy security, clean energy and climate change. And this is important because at the moment there seems to be no serious national or international effort in trying to take ourselves away from dependence on petroleum and coal in terms of energy. And therefore, Hilary will, I hope, throw up some ideas on how we can move from here to other sources of energy. The second speaker, Tony Phua. Actually, the second speaker will be, I think I've been told by the organizers, will be Gurmit. He will talk about energy consumption. Because, and this is very important, because we're always talking about renewable energy in order to maintain the type of standard of living that exists in the United States, which in terms of other environmental factors is totally unsustainable. So consumption is very important. There is a need for reduction of consumption patterns in order to achieve sustainable energy consumption. And this is very important. I'm sure Gurmit has good ideas. He has been a fighting environmentalist. Been cycling along the roads. I don't know whether he's still cycling or he takes rapid and goes to Putrajaya for the meetings, and he always raises this question about transport and all that. So he's not just a theoretician, he's a man who has actually tried to live according to the ideas that he has been preaching. And this is the type of people we need in Malaysia. And the third speaker will be, Tony Phua will be talking about IPPs. We all know about IPPs, the scandals, the only case where I know of where a thriving public institution was privatized, in which the consumer has to pay a higher cost than what was provided by by TNB before. TNB could generate electricity at a cheaper rate than the IPPs, and yet it was privatized to these companies. It was a nice deal, and they all built their business empires by milking the TNB cows. So I think now those agreements are coming to an end, and although there has been a lot of talk about renegotiations, nothing has come out so far. So finally a deal will be made and announced to the public. So I think this is a good forum in which we should express our views on this privatization of energy. I also think about privatizing transmission, privatizing distribution. This is a good occasion to voice our views, civil society's views on these very important issues. So we have three exciting presentations, and without further ado, I'll now call upon Hilary to make her presentation. In a minute, I haven't introduced you. So, Well, Hilary Chiew is currently the Energy and Climate Change Program Officer of SAM and Third World Network. Until early 2010, she was an environmental journalist in the Star newspaper. We all know that she has been writing a lot in the Star, until I think she had some differences of opinion with the management and had to choose to go and find her freedom.
Can you hear me? Sorry. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. Good morning. Thanks for coming. I'll try to cover as much as possible to give a general scenario about the energy situation in Malaysia. Okay. As my colleague has earlier introduced, that the focus of this forum is on electricity generation in the power sector and not so much in the transportation sector. So my presentation would largely focus on that aspect as well, right? So where does Malaysia derive our energy sources? Yeah? We are actually quite blessed with fossil fuel and also hydro. I mean, much as we don't like it with all the attending problem, but that's what we have, and we have been relying on that a lot. We are very dependent on that for our development. In the early 70s, Malaysia discovered oil and gas. Yeah? I mean, oil first and later natural gas in the offshore. And hence our oil and gas form the backbone of our energy mix. For a good part of the last 30 to 40 years. Yeah? Coal is playing an increasingly important role, largely because of our diversification policy, the government diversification policy, and over the concerns of depleting oil and gas reserves. And largely, these the coal is largely non-indigenous, and they are imported. And think about energy security here. But we do have some reserve in eastern Malaysia, in some remote area, and we are in fact already that there is coal mining going on in Sarawak, right? Our local production has increased from 100. I'm going to remove this. Our local production has increased from 114,100 tons in 1995 to 310,000 tons in 2000, right? Besides that, hydro is also featuring very strongly now. It's another indigenous sources of energy that we have begun to exploit more in the last 20 years. Yeah? And in terms of renewable energy, we are very much in the development stage. Yeah? We will hear more about this later today from people from Green Tech, from Energy Commission. And despite news that Malaysia will soon be a net importer of energy, largely fossil fuel, we're talking about here, where we face imminent depletion, actually discovered oil reserve is expected to last until 2025. So you want to bear that in mind when people say that our energy, fossil fuel is depleting very, very quickly. There's even talk about peak oil, we're going to reach that in 2014, and we are going to be a net importer of fossil fuel. That statement, that claim has to be looked at carefully again. Yeah? And what is the agenda of these people saying so? Right? Also, we should also bear in mind that, well, Malaysia is actually an exporter. We are still exporting oil and gas. We are locked in long-term contracts, and largely to Far East countries like Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. All right. Of course, we are a developing country, so we need energy, and growth is there. And depending on which figure you're looking at, but I look at several documents from different sources, it averaged about 6%, and electricity consumption is actually growing very fast. Okay, what are the guiding policy and strategies in the energy sector? Right, as you see in the slides here, our national energy policy, which was formulated in 1979, has set out 3 key objectives. Supply, utilization, and environment, which means that we should be able to develop efficient, secure, and environmentally sustainable energy sources at affordable cost. The world oil crisis in the 70s became a wake-up call for a lot of countries, including Malaysia, even though at the time we just discovered oil, right? And then it shows that we are very vulnerable, despite we have oil reserve, like many other countries, that over-reliance on one conventional sources, right? will will jeopardize our development plan. So the government has responded. Actually, I think they responded very quickly with this national depletion policy in 1980. The national depletion policy basically is to conserve the resources by limiting daily production of petroleum, which they have set at 630,000 barrels per day, while the consumption of gas is limited to 2,000 million standard cubic feet per day. Yeah. And this policy was further enhanced through the four-fuel diversification policy in 1981. As you can see, it's very quickly, 1 year after that. Yeah. And the four-fuel, they are talking about oil, natural gas, coal, and hydro. Right? And renewable energy first appeared in the 8 Malaysia plan, where it was featured quite strongly in 5-fuel policy. But the target set for renewable energy was very, very low. Right? I can't quite remember the figure now, but if I remember correctly, it's something like, is it 300 megawatt, Mr. Francis?
500 in 2001.
But anyway, we did not achieve that objective in the 8 Malaysia plan when it was completed. Right. And then we have the Renewable Energy Policy and Act. It was just passed this year in Parliament, April. Okay. Who are the major players in the country energy sectors? Okay, this can be largely divided divided them into 2 categories: those that supply and those who regulate and plan. Right? As you can see up there, okay, we have Tenaga Nasional, and then we have Sabah Electric Sdn Bhd, which is actually a subsidiary of TNB in Sabah. Right? But oddly, Sarawak Energy is on its own. Production, transmission, and distribution is handled by Sarawak Energy Berhad. Right? These are the utilities. And then we have the private operators that came in, IBBs, right? Penjana Bebas, right? Following the Peninsular White Blackout in 1992. So, right, the last thing that we hear after renewable energy is SEDA. SEDA was also passed in April 2011, which is Sustainable Energy Development Authority, which will handle the FIT and a large part of all the financing issue of green energy. Right, these are the RE-specific policies, as you can see. Right. As mentioned earlier, the 8th Malaysia Plan, 5-fuel policy, where they first set a target for renewable energy. And then in the 9th Malaysia Plan, we have a 5 years project on Malaysian building integrated photovoltaic. Well, the result of this project is quite makes some people felt that they could have done much better. But personally, this is a very good start for Malaysia. At least we are able to test the technology and then build up our capacity and our institution as well. And in 2001, there's SREP, there's a small renewable energy policy, where there's also criticism about it because there's limit of the sale of the electricity generated to the grid. They limit it at 10 megawatt, which in terms of economic, it may not be too attractive to get people on board, to adopt a small renewable energy policy because the capital investment might be very, very high. Right? And then, as I mentioned earlier, there's RE Act this year, and a lot of people must have heard about the Green Tech Financing Scheme, which also involves financing in the energy sector. The feed-in tariff, which will come in sometime, probably end of this year now, and the talk about the Renewable Energy Fund, and also a Renewable Energy Levy, where heavy power user, this is a concept of polluters pay. If you use more, then you pay more, right? And all in all, FIT is actually projected to increase our renewable energy sources from 61.2 megawatt, which is very low now, to what you can see. I don't know how many percentage jump is that, how many 100%, 985 megawatt in 2015. And you can see the projection increasing to 2,000 80 megawatt by 2020. That's when we will supposedly achieve developed country status. This is a slide that shows some of the early projects of renewable energy that the country has undertaken. So we actually have our first grid-connected renewable energy from Jana landfill, that is in Selangor. And then the biomass in Sabah is from biomass from oil palm plantation. But there are shortcomings, as I pointed out earlier, that the tariff is low. And then the grid connectivity is very, very limited. Right? So these are the barriers in the early stages of our development of renewable energy in Malaysia. Energy efficiency and conservation, where are we? Right. As you can see that the government is quite serious now about energy efficiency, because this is one of the two-pronged strategy to address our sustainable energy need. Right. I'm not going to give much detail about this because we have someone from Energy Commission, Mr. Francis, is going to talk more and give more details on this. 15, Malaysia committed to a voluntary emission cut of 40% emission intensity, which means every GDP, every unit of GDP that we produce, we commit to cut 40%. And that we have a post-Copenhagen roadmap, which is RE, and in the waste sector, right? That's biogas. Right? We're going to capture the emission from landfill, right? And this hopefully will help Malaysia by 2020. This voluntary 40% emission intensity is by 2020. This is our commitment to the international fora. In terms of GHG, if you look at our energy mix now, we are going towards adoption a lot of coal. Coal is going to form more than 50% of our mix by 2020. And we have to bear that in mind. Coal means fossil fuel and therefore carbon emission and climate change. Yeah? According to the National Communication 2, NC2, which is where Malaysia had to submit this report to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, in our GHG inventory, Malaysia actually claimed that they are now a net sink. But that is the figure is 2000 figure, right? But now, because NC2 is always working behind time, so the figure that they quoted is for year 2000, but we don't know now whether we are still a net sink, and even if this net sink is correct, you know, that as the government has claimed, right? We also have to bear in mind the international negotiation, where we are not sure whether Kyoto Protocol is going to get another lease of life, an extension into second commitment period. But at the same time, we have another negotiation track in the long-term commitment aid, and where even the non-Annex 1 country, which are developing country, will have at some point in the near and not too far future, we may have to have some form of be imposed with some kind of mandatory cut, right? And there might even be a new treaty to replace Kyoto Protocol. Okay, some of the contentious plans or issues that we like to, you'll hear more about it throughout the day and also tomorrow is, these are the future, very immediate future plan that the government has in mind. You know. They have already announced expansion of coal-fired power plant of Tanjung Bin, which currently stood at 2,400 megawatt. And the reason for doing so, their justification is that we are not going to get the energy from Bahrin anymore as planned. The government initially had planned to transfer Bahrin energy using submarine cables, and that plan has been scrapped. Sahabat wants their own energy for their dirty industry. Okay. And then the Sarawak 12 dams, these are something that is very, very worrying. They are pushing ahead quite quickly. Murung is almost 50% complete. But recently, because of, I believe it's because of strong resistance on the ground against Barang, they have scrapped, or rather they have postponed. Yeah, they have postponed Barang. And, but they're going for another dam in the Rejang Basin, Bali, where there's not much people living there, and therefore there's less resistance. And we also just heard that they are facing difficulties in gaining investment from Chinese interests, and therefore that is one of the reasons why they have a shelf barang for the time being, and they are going for Limbang and cooperating with Brunei. Right, and of course the nuclear power plants, which was announced last year. Right, and then the IPPs, the Power Purchase Agreement Review, that are coming out. Many of these IPP, the first generation IPP, will expire in phases between 2014 and 2016. Right? In total, that is the combination of their capacity. Right, in conclusion, what can we say from all this stuff that we have gone through? We've taken a very general overview of it. Yeah. Malaysia appears to have very sound policy, like many other things, not just in the energy sector, but implementation is something else. Yeah? If you look at the national energy policy, the objective, the three objectives, right? Supply, sustainable supply, and then the efficient utilization and sustainable development of energy project or the energy sector. Largely, you can say that the objectives are not met. They have not been met yet, right? And then we look at renewable energy, and we can say that this is a very, very strategic sector. It is very, very important for us to achieve energy security, for us to achieve our, to cut our emission, and also in terms of energy efficiency, these are the key things that we should push for, right? And of course, we know that policies, enabling policies are very, very important, and the appropriate fiscal incentive is going to see us realizing our strategy, like in terms of developing further our renewable energy. Okay, I just want to end by saying that energy development should not be the sole concern of utilities, those people who supply, and also the government, but very encouragingly, the public are taking a very strong interest in energy issue now. Right? And we see that they are demanding for more transparency, especially in terms of the subsidies that are going to the IPPs. And I'm sure we're going to hear more of this from Tony later. Well, Malaysia is actually at a crossroad. We have an opportunity now to correct our weaknesses in managing a very important aspect of development, and that is to continue our growth in a sustainable manner, both at the national and global level. So ensuring sufficient energy resources to enable us to prosper, instead of suck into investment that leaves us, with expensive, dirty, and dangerous options. So we are really at the crossroad now, with all the plans that the government have in mind, and yet at the same time they're doing all this RE development stuff. So we see that throughout the next 2 days, this kind of thoughts is going to come up very often, and we hope that you will, besides the speakers that are sharing their experiences and their thoughts, the audience will also share their thoughts with us. All right? Okay, I'll end here. Thank you very much.